So as always, we are going to practice our vocabulary and reminding ourselves of some key words. So philanthropic, which I would hope the amount of times I've used it in these videos we're all familiar with by now. How is Fred presented as philanthropic? This should read, how is Fred presented as philanthropic in stave 1? Okay, I've changed the order of the lessons slightly due to trying to make each lesson shorter this week. So how is Fred presented as philanthropic in stave 1? Last lesson we looked at exalted and we looked at the start of stave 5. How is Scrooge presented in exalting in Christmas in stave 5? So think about what it means by exalt or exalting. How is he shown in exalting in the sort of festive season of Christmas in the section we read yesterday? And our new word is conversion. Now, conversion means the process of changing or causing something to change from one form to another. So we know that this is a book about Scrooge's journey to redemption from dark to light. And so by stave 5, we see a conversion, a change from dark and misanthropic to light and philanthropic. All those past sins, for example, avarice or greed, have been cast aside for benevolence or generosity. So what we see is a conversion. Okay, it is a spiritual conversion of Scrooge in stave 5. So do quickly jot down the vocabulary because this will be a great word to use in your essay. So what is the purpose of Scrooge's conversion then by the end of the novel? Why has Dickens bothered to write about a man converting from sort of dark to light, bad to good? So pause the video and just have a go at jotting down the answer to these 3 questions to recall that prior knowledge. So if you are philanthropic, you are kind, generous, social, thinking of others before yourselves. We see Fred as philanthropic in stave 1 because despite how badly Scrooge treats him, he invites him to Christmas dinner and he vows sort of every year to give him the same opportunity. He also treats Bob Cratchit, you know, a lowly poor person, with dignity and respect, wishing him a Merry Christmas. And we know that throughout this, Fred and characters like Fezziwig and Bob are our models for how people should be as sort of respectful Christian citizens, not like Scrooge. So exalted means an extreme state of joy and happiness. We see Scrooge as exulting in Christmas in stave 5 or the start of stave 5 because he is so relieved that he has been given the opportunity to rewrite the future, not just for his sake, but for the sake of Tiny Tim. And we see again in the lesson today, when we reread the rest of stave 5, we see that Scrooge promises that he will live forever with Christmas and the spirit of Christmas in his heart. You know, he will live by the teachings of the 3 spirits, you know, or the Christian Holy Trinity, as we've spoken about, and he sort of vows to be a good man from here on out. Now, we know that Dickens' purpose here is to convert the rich reader. He wants them, like Scrooge, to seek a path of redemption by changing their attitude to the poor, because we know for lots and lots of reasons, including his experiences as a child with his father going into debtors' prison and Dickens having to go work in the factory blackening bottles, we know that this gave him a lasting sympathy and empathy for the poor, and how anybody, no matter how righteous or good you may be, can fall on hard times. And he wanted A Christmas Carol to be like an emotional sledgehammer to the heart for the sorts of people that read reports about the working conditions of poor children, you know, children like Tiny Tim, and do think of them as the surplus population. He was so furious and so disgusted by people that he wrote this book to be that stark, powerful, emotional message of redemption and conversion. And that's why Scrooge undergoes this redemption and this conversion, as potentially unrealistic as, you know, you may think from a sort of modern cynical perspective. Dickens does this deliberately because he wants anybody reading this book who has previously been like Scrooge to equally use him as a model. If someone as awful as Scrooge can convert and change and seek redemption, so can they. So our knowledge goal, as it's going to be throughout Tuesday and Wednesday's lesson as well, is to prepare for a mock essay question. Now, I mentioned to you at the sort of start of the lockdown and our remote learning that as we have been told as teachers, we will be the ones giving you your grades. We don't know specifically what that process is going to look like yet. It makes logical sense to build up a portfolio for each student of practice essay answers. Now, no single essay is going to determine your grade. It will be a culmination of lots of them. So this first essay on A Christmas Carol is going to be, you know, the real key one. And I will be, as head of English, instructing the class teachers. For anybody who does not submit this, you know, we will be personally chasing you up because we need this work submitted to us. If you are not generating evidence for us to be able to grade you, you cannot hope to maintain or improve your predicted grade before lockdown. You know, essentially, we've got to start generating evidence. You have had, you know, several weeks of revising, rereading key sections of A Christmas Carol. This week's series of lessons, culminating on Thursday, of actually answering this question is really, really important. So if your engagement in the work has been patchy, you know, you've been doing bits of the lessons, maybe not submitting all the work, you know, this week is the week you really need to focus on, to know how to structure that essay, to know what an effective answer looks like, and to get that essay submitted for your teacher to grade, and again, begin to build up that portfolio of evidence. So, by the end of the lesson, you will know how to structure your essay, what quotations you are going to analyse to show the different characters' attitudes to Christmas, and Dickens' intentions in presenting them in this way. So we are going to be focusing, you know, in on how do you approach this essay question. So we're not going to worry too much about the level of detail on this slide, but I just want to remind you of the sort of 3 sections to your exam answer. You have an overview. You should summarise sort of the question essentially. So our question is going to be on different characters' attitudes to Christmas. You would have a summary of sort of the theme of Christmas, why Dickens has chosen to focus on Christmas, what Christmas sort of means spiritually for Dickens and people at the time, and then, you know, show understanding of the fact that Dickens is contrasting Scrooge's attitude with Christmas and how that slowly changes when he's shown others' views of Christmas throughout sort of staves 2, 3 and 4. After your overview, you have an extract that you will be expected to spend 15-20 minutes tracking through. Then we know when that 20 minutes is up, you then have to go back to the start of A Christmas Carol and, you know, ideally say something about each of those 5 staves, particularly staves 2, 3, 4 and 5, as you would have already written about stave 1 in the extract. So we've got overview, extract, wider text. So here is your mock exam question then. The characters in A Christmas Carol view Christmas in different ways. Write about some of these views and how Dickens presents them at different points in the novel. So we know that you're writing about the theme of Christmas, and you have to pick the views of a range of characters and how they are presented at different points in the novel. So this is a slightly tricky question in that you're given quite a lot of choice, which is why we're going to spend, you know, several lessons, 3 lessons in fact, preparing you for this answer rather than just throwing you straight into it. So We know we have to speak about Scrooge's attitude to Christmas. He's our main character, but we need to juxtapose or contrast Scrooge's attitude to Christmas to the attitudes of others that he meets along the sort of journey and structure of the book. So like I said in the previous slide, we briefly answer the question. For those of you aiming at the higher grades, there should be a sense of overview and evaluation of sort of Dickens' intentions and why he chooses to present Christmas in a particular way. We spend 20 minutes tracking through the extract and analysing language to get your AO2 marks, your language analysis marks. Then we know we go back to the start of the novel and track your way through the text using examples of different characters' attitudes to Christmas to explore Dickens' intentions. So, attached to your team's assignment, you have the question and the extract. What I would like you to do is read through the extract and select 3 to 6 short quotations that show different characters' attitudes towards Christmas. Then what I would like you to do is explode your quotations and consider how the language has given you your impressions. So you will know how much you tend to be able to write in 20 minutes. The very least, you need to have one quote from the beginning of the extract, one from the middle, and one from the end. The extract is really important. It is where Scrooge and Fred are talking about Christmas in stave 1. Ideally, I would say you want 4 quotations, one from Scrooge's perspective, compare it to Fred's perspective, so there's your second. Then again, something Scrooge says about Christmas, compare it to something Fred says about Christmas. So try to aim for 4. Remember, you were given this year, before they cancelled the exam, an hour rather than 45 minutes to write about A Christmas Carol. I'm going to assume they're going to continue to honour that this year in the sort of practice questions you'll be doing within school to determine your grade. So that does mean you have a little bit longer on that extract question. So try and focus on 4. Those of you that are particularly speedy writers may be able to focus on a few more. I would say 6 would be your sort of maximum, really. So read through that extract, decide on your quotes, ensure you have a mixture of both Scrooge and Fred. I was going to do this on the visualizer for you, but you know, it is important that you do this independently. So you can pause the video now, read through the extract, select your quotes, and then explode your quotes. Remember, exploding your quotes is when you write your quote out, you underline the key word, the one word that you're going to embed into your mini PE to really analyse. Also, don't forget that you are explicitly marked for context, AO3. You don't have to link every point or every piece of analysis to the context. It needs to be in at least 50%, really. So if you're going to write about 4 quotes, you want to try and link 2 of them to the context. But you also need to make sure that you are not sort of constantly repeating yourself when it comes to the context. Remember, you're going to have an optional live lesson on Tuesday where we can go through this as well. And then everybody will have a live lesson on Wednesday before you do this practice question on Thursday. So there'll be plenty of opportunities to go through anything that confuses you with your teacher before you do this essay. So there really is nothing to worry about. So pause the video now, please. And get that done. In fact, this is the final slide, so you don't have to pause the video. You can, in fact, leave the video now and complete that. Do please submit your exploded quotations to your class teacher so we can have a little look over them and so we can check that you've managed to get this section of the essay planning done. And I'll see you tomorrow.